Here from Psychologies Magazine. We are live this morning with the lovely Ruby Bax, who's written a brilliant, amazing feature for us on a new book, which is about, and now for the good news, maybe Ruby was channeling the good, well, I believe it's the good news from America last week. I know some people may disagree, but Ruby is talking all about the brilliant things people are doing in the world. Today we are talking about decisions, and what 3 decisions can you make today that will have a big positive impact on your life. I think decisions are a great subject to talk about this morning, because decisions, when there's so much out of control in the world, there's so much that we can't control. One of the things we can control are our decisions. So just from a mental health point of view, being able to take control of our decisions is a really great thing. So what 3 decisions can you make today that will make the biggest positive impact in your life today? So the second reason why this is a really good question to ask is it's asking you to focus on the positive. So again, there's a lot of things that we can't control. There's a lot of negativity out there in the world. So how do we consciously create a life that we want? It's by consciously focusing on what the positive outcomes that you want to make in your life, and what are the decisions that you can make that will take you towards that outcome. So that, which is also really good. I love the idea of the biggest impact, because sometimes, sometimes we get stuck in the detail, but maybe if you kind of pan out and get some really big perspective on what's going on in your life right now. So if you were thinking about, so for example, with me, we've just come into lockdown, and panning out, the first lockdown I went into overdrive, and the biggest, and I've been working very hard for Psychologies, and we've been doing Facebook Lives, and we've been doing so much to try and support our readership. But how much was I supporting myself? So in this lockdown, one of the biggest positive impact that I can make on my life is self-care. So I am focusing and creating a really strong and powerful self-care regime, more than I've done ever before for this second lockdown. I've always journaled, I'd always meditate, but now I'm doing Wim Hof breathing, I'm doing an hour walk a day, I'm going running every day, I'm doing yoga every day. So I'm really filling up my tank as much as I possibly can, because I'm sure, like many other people out there, our tanks may have felt very, very depleted. And I know with many of my friends working in the NHS, my friends are nurses and a couple of doctors, and they're all exhausted. And what we've all been talking about is, okay, how can we support our own self-care so we can support others? So that's what, one of the big decisions that I've made in this lockdown is really deciding to focus on self-care. So what decision can you make that will make the biggest impact for you, a positive impact in your life? I suppose I just want to talk a tiny little bit about making decisions and how we make decisions. So I want you to consider this today, is like, how do you make decisions? Many of us don't make decisions in our life because often we're afraid of conflict, or often we're afraid of change, because once we make a decision, that often requires that we make a change and we make a shift. So often we avoid making a decision, and then we're kind of left in this limbo period of not making a decision. You can make a decision not to make a decision, which is different from just not making one. So what I would ask you to sit down and ponder after this video today is, what is your usual methodology of making a decision? So I'm very intuitive the way I make decisions, but I have friends around me who are very logical. They make lists and pros and cons. How does it work for you? I also want you to ponder about the 3 best decisions that you've ever made in your life. What worked in those decisions and what didn't. there's a great psychologist called Kahneman, and he talked about fast thinking and slow thinking, and about how you sometimes in the moment will make very fast snap decisions. And some people say that's intuitive, but sometimes that's just patterning, you know, the way that our parents have done it, the way our teachers have done it, the way we've learned how to do it. But in terms of slow thinking, slowing your thinking down, slowing your decision process down, what does that look like for you? So I'm a great fan of meditating. So if I'm unsure, or my Yorkshire parents used to say, if you're unsure, do nout, which is very Yorkshire saying, very northern saying. So when I'm unsure, I don't do anything. So I kind of press pause, but then I've got to kind of figure out what is stopping me making that decision. I'm trying to process it. For me, sort of meditating and getting in touch with not just my own wisdom, but it feels like the deepest wisdom. And then I'm looking at, I love street wisdom. So going out onto the streets and looking for signs, trying to get some guidance. And then I have a feeling, a sense that kind of dook, like I fall into and like, yes, that's the right decision. And normally I don't make any decisions until I felt that feeling. What about you? How do you make decisions? How do you know you've made the right decision? How do you know you've made the wrong decision? I mean, there's one tiny part of our lives, the decision-making process can make a massive impact on your life in terms of your career, in terms of your relationships, all of those things. So to be actually just to swill this around your brain, how do you make decisions? What works? What hasn't worked? And do you need to tweak your decision-making process in any way? One great tip that I have used with coaching clients is to imagine that imagine that you've got a decision that you want to make, and then you imagine that you've made it, and that the life is as it were going forward. Does that decision, and does that the consequences of the decision, is it a heart leap or heart sink? So, for example, you don't know whether to accept a job or not. And often, you know, it looks great on paper, being paid, but something about it that makes your heart sink. And what I've learned from a bitter experience is don't accept anything or be with people or accept things from people if it gives me a heart sink. Only go towards the heart leap. In psychology, when we're just deciding which features to put in the magazine, we call it a hell yes. If it's a hell yes, if it's like, yes, we want that in the magazine, we put it in. But sometimes we go, oh yeah, it's a good idea. It's really nice. But unless it's got that yes kind of energy to it, then we don't do it. So how does that work for you? So when you're thinking about a decision, again, going back to that piece, many of us don't make decisions because we're trying to avoid conflict. Oh, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to do that because I want to. So we in the end, we're letting other people or trying to people please because we're trying to avoid conflict. So for you, what might you be trying? Good question, Esther. What might you be trying to avoid by not making a decision? But if you could get through that decision-making process on the other side of it, does that make your heart leap or does that make your heart sink? Decision-making, a wonderful, wonderful skill to learn and to think about how you do it well and how you've not done it well. We've all made really bad decisions in our life. Why is that? And then if you can create this kind of process for yourself, is like, okay, don't say yes immediately. Give yourself 24 hours. Meditate. You know, just kind of check in. Is it a heart leap, heart sink, for example? Ask yourself, are you trying to avoid something by not making this decision? Often we're trying to avoid some pain or conflict or confrontation or something. And what's the solution? Sometimes it has to be painful to get through the other side, but on the other side of a decision is a future that you want to create. So really spend some time thinking about how you make decisions in your life today. And then I want to invite you all to make 3 decisions today that will make a really massive impact to your week. So for me, one of my big decisions is to really up my self-care massively, not just this week, but for the whole of lockdown, because my tank was a little bit empty. What about for you? what are the decisions that you can make that are going to make a positive impact on your life? Have a wonderful week. Do go and get your copy of Psychologies or subscribe to us. We have a free coaching course every month in our Life Leap Club, which is our Psychology subscriber club. And we have this amazing, kind community. So do join us. The links are below. Lots of love. Have a great week. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.